and um, he wanted her, she wanted him. The parents had promised her, had betrothed her to somebody else. So the young man got a bunch of his friends together and started singing in the streets his love for his woman. And he got up to his beloved's home, and the father met them and killed them all. That was the end of true early love. Father was having none of that. killed the boyfriend and all his friends. Happened because he didn't have a shotgun. Yeah, well, if he had a shotgun, it would have ended the same. Mom goes, wow. Yeah, that's young love for you in the ancient Near East. Sepia versus DOS. Finally, a Disney tale for the dads. Yep, and it's recorded in a Canadian form tablet. It is fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Oh boy. Good times, good times. Yeah, so the long and the short of it is that back in the ancient Near East, your first marriage was almost always arranged by mom or dad. Usually both. So, there you go. Not romantic, but there it is. Yeah, well, sometimes from birth. Not always from birth, though. Alright, let's move on to the next super chat here. Next one here is from TBTM for $4.99. Thank you very much for the super chat. He says, I am confused about Ezekiel 29, 17 to 21. The prophecy seems like it was not fulfilled. Could Persia possibly have taken Babylon's role in it? Let's look at this. Ezekiel.
Naughty, disobedient children should be hung up and beaten.
Ezekiel 29, 17 to 21. Okay. Verse 17. Now, in the 27th year, in the first month of the first of the month, the word of the Lord came to me, saying, Son of man, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, made his army labor hard against Tyre. Every head was made bald, every shoulder was brought bare, and he and his army had no wages from Tyre for the labor he had performed against it. Therefore, thus says the Lord God, behold, I shall give the land of Egypt to Israel, to Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, and he will carry off her wealth, and capture her spoil, and her plunder, and it will be wages for his army, and it will be given to him, the land of Egypt, for his labor which he had performed, because they had acted before me, declared Lord. On that day I shall make a horn spout of the house of Israel, and I shall open your mouth in their midst, and then they will know that I am the Lord. Okay. Now, the whole idea, there's two issues in this text. One is the Nebuchadnezzar conquest of Tyre. Second is the conquest of Egypt. Okay? Now, I would say this. You get people who basically said Nebuchadnezzar conquered Nineveh. Now, we know that Nebuchadnezzar took Tyre because there's two tablets from Nebuchadnezzar II. He's Nebuchadnezzar II. That one that says that there was a soldier who was provisioning himself for the conquest of Tyre, and the second tablet that dates to the Nebuchadnezzar II that talks about Tyre as a province of Babylon. So it's clear that there was a conquest of Tyre and it was successful, but maybe it didn't have the spoils that Nebuchadnezzar was hoping for. But it was successful. So from the cuneiform tablets, we can definitely gather that, and both those tablets are in the British Museum. Okay, so that's how the conquest of Tyre did go off, and it was successful, although probably it took much labor to get there. Now, as far as Egypt goes, we do have one of the things we noticed about Egypt at the time of, say, the Babylonian conquest is there does seem to have been some looting. Okay? The temples, one of the things you can do with say, temple furniture is you can monitor how stable things were by the grandiosity and the beauty of the specific items that were used in temple rituals, like barks. And during, say, the New Kingdom, you start getting a rise in the grandeur of this consistent rise in the grandeur of sacred barks, from the early 18th dynasty all the way to the end of the 20th dynasty. Okay, so you get that, and it continues on after that to a large extent. But you get to the Dynasty 25, and there's been some looting already. So that's to be expected. But then you get a little dip up. So after the Napatan dynasty loots Egypt, you get sort of this. Okay, they're starting to rebuild things in Dynasty 26, and right up to the end of Dynasty 26, you get that sort of rise again of ritual furniture, and then it plunges again. It just like starts from nothing. Okay, so now you got this, particularly during the reign of, say, Apres. Apres is when you start seeing it just plummet again. So then the question is, who's looting Egypt? Who's looting Egypt around the time of Apres? You don't have a lot of options here. I mean, it's not like Libya's doing it. I mean, yeah, Libya's in decline at this point. You know, the 26th dynasty, they're the Libyan rulers. They're withdrawing. They're withdrawing from Egypt, and you know, they're still reigning at Tanis, but they're withdrawing from the rest of Egypt because they can't hold it. Well, then the question is, who is it that they can't hold it from? It's not the Israelites, certainly, because the Israelites are having their problems with Babylon. It's not the Assyrians. The Assyrians are defeated. And the Assyrians did, you know, conquer Egypt twice. Okay, so the pump was primed here for Babylon to at least do another raid. Another raid where they stole stuff. So here's the thing. I don't think Nebuchadnezzar came into Egypt and ruled, or even replaced the king, because the king was too far north. He's in the swamps. Nobody cares to go after him. But I think what happened was that Nebuchadnezzar raided Egypt, stole the stuff, and went home. Essentially, verse 19. He will carry off her wealth and capture her spoil and seize her plunder, and it will be wages for his army. And that's exactly what I think happened. They took all that sacred furniture, they hauled it back to Babylon, they put it in the furnaces, they burned it all down to metal, and then they paid their soldiers. Because that's what Babylonians did. They stole ritual furniture, they melted it down, and they used the metal to pay their armies. What better place to get that stuff than Egypt? That only makes sense. So that's what I think happened. We don't have a lot of inscriptions from that time period, and that's another thing too. Is we don't have a lot of inscriptions from that period of time, so it's hard to confirm one way or the other. But from it looks, from at least what small data we have from that time period, that's what seems to happen. Is Egypt got looted by someone during the time of Vapores. Who can do this? Well, there ain't many options. So anyway, I hope that helps. Thank you very much for the super chat. Very much appreciated. 100 gram. Come on, take the money and run. Yeah. Darkwave basically went to Egypt as a cash grab because Tyre didn't provide enough loot. Is that right? Yeah, that's right. Egypt was a paper tiger. It couldn't defend its borders, and it was just right for the looting. They didn't hang around. They didn't want to hang around. They didn't need to hang around. They just stole stuff and went home. Okay, next one here. Super chat here is from TBTM for 499. Thank you for the super chat. What do you think happened to Sennacherib's army? Isaiah 37:36. Is it plague, as in 2 Samuel 24:15-16? Angel of the Lord struck Israel with a plague. Let's take a look at the text, and then I'll give you a reply. Isaiah 37.
We flow kindness.
36. Then the angel of the Lord went out and struck 185,000 in the camp of the Assyrians. When men rose early in the morning, behold, all these were dead. Okay. You know what I think killed the Assyrians? Cholera. Cholera killed the Assyrians.
Disobedient children should be hung up and treated.
Here's the thing with cholera. You get this in, particularly in campsites and places of confined areas where you don't have good sanitation, where the water supply is sketchy, and people are in tight groups. And it will kill you deader than dead. Fast. So, that's what I think happened here. Is they had contaminated water that they contaminated because they weren't practicing good sanitation, being soldiers. There was a lot of them stuck in one place, you know, camped around Jerusalem. And I think cholera got the best of them. And cholera can kill a lot of people really, really quickly. That wouldn't surprise me at all. You know, cholera is just one of those crazy things that, you know, that can leave half the city dead. And there have been many, many cholera outbreaks in history that have killed a lot of people. Mama says, cholera, tale as old as time. Yeah. Sadly, yes. Yes, sadly, cholera. Well, there was one instance of cholera in Chicago that was really pretty in that case, in the case of the Chicago cholera outbreak, they had piped the sewage into the water supply. Okay? They had actually connected the sewage and the water lines. So anyone who drank from the fresh water got cholera. And it killed thousands of people. It killed thousands of people. They discovered it because they noticed that those people who were drinking at the breweries were getting cholera. Because so you went to the pubs and you didn't catch cholera. So people who went to the pubs, drank beer all day, they were fine. Because beer is boiled. So though, you know,
Sharp as it used to be. Freeze!
so you know that's just one of those things where getting drunk wins again. Yeah, it does. Alcoholics stay winning until their liver gives out. Yeah, but I mean, compared to cholera, you know, alcoholism won't kill you quite as fast. Yeah. Oh yeah, well yeah, I mean beer has always had a nutritional supplementary value in all cultures. So yeah, beer, the #1 strategy for cleaning water since 3000 BC. It was. Yeah. 18 Ministries. Jetty's wisdom is timeless. Yeah. Yeah, Jetty drank like 6 gallons of beer a day. That's all he drank was beer. Now, granted, the beer of Egypt was like 1 to 3%. It wasn't strong, but yeah. So yeah, I mean, in a case, I mean that's what they discovered in Egypt, was those who drank from the river were the sickest. Then the wells, then the healthiest drank beer. So, and it was true in Chicago during the cholera outbreak that those who drank beer lived, while those who drank from the water taps got cholera and died. So that's what I think happened to Sennacherib's is Arby. I think there was a sanitation issue. They caught cholera, and hundreds of thousands of them, tens of thousands of them died as a result. So anyway, I hope that helps. That's what I think happened. No proof, of course, but it's a pretty good estimate seeing how many died, how fast. And cholera can kill very, very quickly, especially if there's already dehydration involved, which, given a conquest, isn't given an army's encampment, isn't actually expected either. So, hope that helps. Thank you for the super chat. Very much appreciated. This one here. It's from 501 Mobius for $10. Thank you for the super chat. In 1 Chronicles 7:21, what are the sons of Ephraim doing stealing livestock in Gath? They should be in Egypt living the life of luxury as scion grandsons of a vizier. Okay. There's some issues. Let's get to this. Because it isn't quite like that. 1 Corinthians, Chronicles. 7. Alright. We'll start at verse 20. And the sons of Ephraim were Kethulah, and Bered his son, Tahath his son, Eladah his son, Tahath his son, Zabad his son, Shekelah his son, and Ezer and Eliad, whom the men of Gath, who were born in the land, killed, because they came down to take their livestock. Okay, and their father Ephraim born in days, and his relatives came. Okay, now there's a lot of confusion with this passage. Okay, first of all, this is once they actually enter the Holy Land. So the span of time between Ephraim and these people is about 300 years. Okay, so this is not the original Ephraim. This is the what we call the progenitor, or not the progenitor, the clan chief, the tribal chief. Okay, so he's the tribal chief that's doing the mourning here. Okay, and he's doing mourning on behalf of Ephraim, the original Ephraim. And these so-called sons, these are the clans. Okay, the So that's what's going on as far as the setting here. Okay, so if this had been the actual grandson of Ephraim, yes, they would still be in Egypt, because Ephraim did not send his children back to Canaan. Okay, because there was no conquest yet. They had not taken the land, so it doesn't even make sense to say that these are the grandsons of Ephraim. Okay, so, or grandsons of Joseph, as it were. So it doesn't even, this doesn't even make sense to make that sort of claim here. So this is after the conquest, and these are the clans of the conquest. Okay, now the text is a little ambiguous here, but you can still figure it out. It's not the sons of Ephraim doing the stealing here, and you'd only sort of catch this if you caught the geographical cues here. And it says here in verse 21, whom the men of Gath who were born in the land, because they came down, and that's the key verse, the key passage, came down, they descended to take their livestock. Now, when we talk about the Shephelah, and all this is taking place in the Shephelah, okay, you've got 2 high points in the land and a low point. The agricultural land is in the low point. The cities are in the high point. Okay? You have Gath on the western side of the Shephelah. The city of Gath is in the highlands of the Shephelah. So, to kill them, the ones that have to descend are the Gathites here, not the Ephraimites. So that's so it's not the sons of Ephraim that are doing the stealing here. It's the Gathites doing the stealing. It's just a kind of ambiguously written verse. But that's really who's doing the stealing here. It's the Gathites doing the stealing, not the Ephraimites. Because you don't pasture your cattle in the highlands. That's not where you pasture your cattle. You pasture your cattle in the lowlands. So the cattle's in the lowlands. Okay? So they're coming down. The Gathites are coming down. They're stealing the cattle in the lowlands, and they're having to go back up. So that's who's doing the stealing here, at least as we can best sort of figure out from the passage. As I said, it is a little ambiguous. You might be able to make the case both ways, but I don't think it's the sons of Ephraim that are doing the stealing here, because they're living in the land. They're not living in the cities. Remember, the cities belong to the Levites. So the Ephraimites, they're living in the agricultural villages, in the agricultural land itself. So and I hope that helps. Thank you very much for the super chat. So that's really what's going on here. These are not the grandsons of Joseph. These are the clans of the tribe of Ephraim that have come into the land after the conquest. They're making their home in the land, in the Shephelah, and then they're encountering the Gathites who come down, kill everybody, steal the cattle, and go back. So, I hope that helps. Thank you very much for the super chat. Very much appreciated. Yeah?
A healer must not hesitate.
Andrew Grimm asks, was there a charge for being drunk and disorderly in the ancient Near East? Depends. If you got too rowdy, yes, you could get a beating. You could get a beating if you were too rowdy, but generally most people weren't publicly drunk and disorderly. And even then, most of the time, it wasn't a crime. It was only a crime if you started doing other crimes. Okay? So, let's say you were drunk and disorderly and sets to fire to someone else's barn. Yeah, you can expect a beating. So, She-Ra, the honor of Ephraim. Yes. Yes, She-Ra was quite the character. Okay. So, I only had 6 gallons, officer. Well, there was no such thing as 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 driving an ox cart under the influence. Okay. So there wasn't a crime back then. But I mean, if you started like using a weapon while drunk and disorderly, oh yeah, definitely you would have gotten punishment for that. But then again, at that point, your crime is not drunkenness; it's using a weapon in a dangerous manner. So, or assault, or potentially murder. So, yeah. So you only got punished for being publicly drunk if you did something, did another crime while being drunk. Okay, so hope that answered that question. Thank you very much for that super chat. Very much appreciated. Hope that helps. Next one here is from TBTM for 199. Thank you for the super chat. What are the biggest problems with the Levite hypothesis? Okay. I think we need to sort of explain the Levite hypothesis before we get into it. The Levite hypothesis is that there was a real exodus, but it was only of the tribe of Levi. So only the Levites left Egypt. It was a real small exodus of about 2,000 people. They enter into the promised land somehow, really without fighting. And they convinced all the other tribes of Israelites, or Canaanites, they convinced all these Canaanites to band together to become Israelites and give up pork, follow all these dietary laws, do whatever they say. But that's sort of the core of the Levite hypothesis. Now, the Levite hypothesis depends really, really strongly on the documentary hypothesis. Okay? Like, for example, if you listen to Richard Elliott Friedman's lectures on the Levite hypothesis, 80% of the hypothesis, 80% of his lectures are always on the documentary hypothesis. The last 20% is on the Levite Exodus itself. Okay? So what it requires is it's a textual view. It basically is looking at the literary sources and saying, okay, E, P, and D, which are primarily Levite sources, they have an emphasis on circumcision. Therefore, those coming out of the Exodus must have been primarily Levites. Most of the names of the people who left the Exodus and had Egyptian names, they were Levites. Of course, they ignore Hur, which is the Egyptian name Horus, which applied to a Judite, but hey. But yeah, you'll hear him saying that all the Egyptian names of those coming out of the Exodus, those Israelites who had Egyptian names, they were Levites, which is not true. It's just not true. And then they somehow sneak into Canaan and convince a whole vast number of tribes to rise up against other Canaanites, apparently, and Amorites, and knock everyone off in exchange for you do everything we tell you to do. Okay. I don't really think I have to lay out the problems with the hypothesis here in any great detail. It's almost self-refuting. The whole idea of the quiet infiltration, I think, is nonsense. I think it's archaeologically nonsense. The fact is, we do have destructions for Hatzor and Jericho. You know, there's no reason to destroy Jericho if you're already inside the country. There's only one reason to destroy Jericho. Because it's guarding the fords of the Jordan. You only have to destroy Jericho if you want to get into Canaan. If you're already inside Canaan because you snuck in somehow, there's no need to destroy Jericho. I think the idea of a 2,000 person exodus is just ridiculous. The whole idea that, I mean, there were at least 5,000 people at Avaris all by itself. 5 to 50,000. So I think you're talking about an exodus at least in the tens of thousands, not the 2,000. I think the documentary hypothesis is an idiotic theory that is based upon hypothetical sources for which there's no warrant, no methodological justification. I just think it's one of those crazy theories like phrenology that deserves to die. So without the documentary hypothesis, really the whole Levite hypothesis thing goes to dust. It needs the documentary hypothesis. Without the documentary hypothesis, the Levite hypothesis has no warrant. So, but this is again why Friedman devotes most of his time to the documentary hypothesis. Because without that, the Levite hypothesis is just, there's nothing to it. So, just, it's so stupid, yeah. Yeah, that's about it. Yeah, this is why we're evidentialists. So, Mama says, plus if it was only 2,000 people, would Pharaoh even bother? You know, that's the big question, isn't it? Would he bother with 2,000 people? You know, that's... No, I mean, 2,000 leaving at Vars is nothing. Tourist season's over. That's great. So the documentary hypothesis is like the Levite hypothesis is half worn out ID machine. Pretty much, yeah. Yeah. So, that's pretty hard to argue. Andrew, they left the sneak into Canaan, then God took over. Yeah. I mean, the whole idea of sneaking into Canaan, you know, it's just... What? I mean, 2,000 people is not going to take out Jericho, okay? You're not going to be able to take out Jericho with 2,000 people. Okay. I mean, most of them could probably do it. I mean, that's like a junior high school coming at you. You know, a fortified city against a bunch of high school students. You know, come on, really. Yeah, Mama says you're certainly not going to conquer all the Canaan with 2,000 people. You're not gonna wipe out everyone in Jericho with 2,000 people. I mean, Jericho's not a big city, okay, but it is well fortified. Yeah. Yeah, with 2,000 people, I mean, they could have, if that was the case, they could have just moved into Jericho. You know, if that's what they, if you only had 2,000 people, you know, and you could take over Jericho, just stay there. You got everything you need in Jericho for that. It's just not a lot. This doesn't make a lot of sense. It's kind of crazy that we're...
save all souls.
Oh dear. Okay, so yeah, I think we've kind of beat that horse to death. Suffice it to say, I don't buy the Levite hypothesis. So, answer game: 2,000 well-trained priests. Well, that's sort of the thing with the Levite hypothesis too. Is they were said to be priests in Egypt. So 2,000 trained priests from Egypt are conquering Jericho. No. No. Alright. Mama says, this one is so embarrassingly stupid that I wouldn't be surprised if Brian Young teaches it. Ooh, low blow. Low blow. Alright, let's move on to the next one. The peeps are getting rowdy here. Louis Sandoval for 100 Dominican pesos. Are cursed objects, dolls, books, etc. a real thing? That one is really difficult to answer. Okay. And I think it's really difficult to answer because we have insufficient data. Okay. The whole idea, okay, of cursed objects is, what do we mean by cursed? Objects that bring you misfortune, zest, toys. I mean, what are we really talking about here when we even talk about cursed objects? Okay? Now, I have a picture of a real voodoo doll. A voodoo doll that was really, really used for its intended religious purpose, that was left in a certain furniture store. Do I think that object was cursed? No. But was it used for that purpose? Yes. There was some serious hate attached to that voodoo doll. There was pins in it and chains and all that stuff, so it was... Ooh. Okay. But, do I think, first of all, do I think that an object can be possessed? No. Okay? Do I think an object can have the taint of evil attached to it? Yes. There's a difference, though, between saying something is possessed and having something that has the taint of evil. With the taint of evil, it becomes more receptive of things that are evil. Okay? So, like for example, if a psychic uses a crystal ball, that crystal ball becomes tainted in such a way that it becomes more receptive for its use as an object of evil. Yes, it's basically profanity amplified. The inverse. Yeah, it's the inverse of sacred space. So instead of it being something sacred and holy, it becomes something profane and abominated. Okay? So I think something having the taint of evil is possible. So then, for example, this whole idea then that, you know, sort of the idea that an object can be receptive to being used in an evil way, yeah, sure, that's possible. Is it possessed? I don't think so. So I don't think say things like possessed toys are a thing. Although Raggedy Ann sure looks possessed to me. Darkblade, if a fortune teller uses some stylized cards, do those gain the taint of evil? They could. But that doesn't mean they will. Okay? Louis Sandoval, like when someone perhaps has a baseball bat and uses it for evil purposes. Yeah. Yeah, like that. Now, is that psychosomatic? Possibly. That's possibly psychosomatic, that someone may know that an item is used for evil, and is thus inclined to use it for evil too. There is that possibility that there's a psychosomatic element. There is some possibility that folk basically applied pharmacology could be involved too. Or like, for example, if somebody has a baseball bat, like a drug dealer, he always has cocaine on his hands. Okay, and he grabs the handle of the bat and sort of grinds the cocaine into the leather handle of the bat, so the next person picks it up and becomes a little less inhibited to do evil with it. So there's a various factors of psychology, pharmacology that are involved with these things, as well as possibly, say, the spiritual as well. Yeah.
Save all souls.
Yeah. A lot of ancient Near Eastern magic involved a lot of pharmacology, so we can't rule that out as well. Tim Yara, how about holy objects then? Well, the fact is that holy objects tend to be used for holy purposes consistently. You don't often see a priest taking the Eucharist, the vessel of the Eucharist, and slamming it into somebody's head. Just say it. Or taking someone's head and dunking it into the baptismal font. Okay. I have yet to see a priest do that. You know, the equivalent of sticking someone's head in the toilet with a baptismal font. James Bond would. I'm sure he would. Okay, back. Sure. Yeah, there is. There is a feeling of peace you have when you enter a cathedral or a church, and there is holiness to it, peace, sanctity, and a general respect for these things. So the whole idea of Mama says here, I have witnessed a cursed object placed outside of the church. I felt it there in my spirit, therefore, before seeing it with my eyes. Now, was it spirits hanging around or the curse? Probably spirits hanging around. The idea of a curse itself, now, one of the things we have to keep in mind is curses are a magical incantation, religiously speaking. Okay? They're not a residual effect. So, what you're doing when you curse someone is you are calling up, doing a magical incantation to bring misfortune upon somebody. That is not something that can stay resident in an object. But there's nothing preventing somebody from making a spell like that where it invites, say, good-for-nothing demons to hang around. So Windows ME, yes, okay. Windows ME was definitely cursed. Cursed software. Human stupidity. Is human stupidity and malfeasance distinguishable? Well, that's the comment. Malfeasance and incompetence is barely distinguishable. Ryan Copenkamp, how did you die, baptismal? Yeah, pretty much. My mama says, it was a bird skull with some other object inside a small protective birdhouse facing the back of the church. I informed the church and they removed it. Yeah, and they either would have buried it or burned it. So.
We flow with kindness. A healer must save all souls.
No, the ones that work for... Well, okay, this is something where, Ryan Cohenkamp says programmers do not count as evil spirits. Now, Mrs. Producer says no, they don't. I think they're part of the undead. I think if you worked for Microsoft, you are part of the living dead. You have lost your soul to Bill Gates.
We flow with kindness.
Free!
A healer must save all souls.
Tim Yara asks, you encounter a new tomb that has an ancient curse written on the opening against any trespassers. Do you open the tomb? Yes. That's where absolutely, that's where the good stuff is. Well, the mummy's curse was fake anyway.
Naughty, disobedient children
You know
should
how
be
that
hung up
happened?
and treated.
How the curse of the mummy was? Okay. It's not. Okay, here's the curse of the mummy from King Tut's tomb. Back in when Howard Carter was excavating the King Tut, he had an exclusive contract to give photos, Burton's photos, to the Times, the UK Times. But one of the competing newspapers wanted access to those photos. Wouldn't pay Carter to get them. So the competing newspaper made up this story of people dying from the curse of the of the mummy. It's all professional jealousy. Yeah, they made up the whole thing, such as the mole killing people, people dying from mosquito bites that got infected. Well, Howard Carter, Lord Carnarvon did die from that. Howard Carter didn't, though. I mean, he went on and lived another 20, 30 years. Yeah, well. Yeah. CPM versus DOS. What? No way! Journalists would make things up. Big Destiny. Did Egyptian tomb raiders not believe in the curses or could not read them? Okay, let's talk about curses on Egyptian tombs. They aren't what you think they are. We only have a couple of examples of curses from Egyptian tombs. And it's not against entry. Most of those curses are, if you come into this tomb without being ritually pure, you'll be cursed. It didn't prevent entry. In fact, most of the tombs in Egypt had a public place where people could come in, leave offerings, libation and food offerings for the dead, say prayers for the dead, etc. So most of the people who entered the tombs were allowed to do so as long as they were ritually pure and they did so with no evil intent. But it was the ones who sort of came in to wreck the place, defile the tomb, those were the ones that they did curses against. So, Louis Sandoval. So it was a conditional thing. Yeah, it's a conditional thing. So, okay. So there we have it. I don't think there's cursed objects, at least not as per se, but there can be objects that have the taint of evil attached to them. What?